Hello friends and welcome back to the Messy Life with Abhinav. Now this is a video that I've had trouble trying to just nail down the concept for like the last 4 days, 5 days, and but it is something that I desperately wanted to talk about, and I was all ready to do that. Like 4 or 5 hours ago, I was all ready for this, and then there was another piece of news, huge important news that came out, and I was like, okay, so yeah, this is all good, and this is a big relief on my mind. And then I was like, okay, but I still want to talk about what has been happening in India for the last few days. And I was like, okay, let's get ready. I go online, I'm just checking news randomly, and then bam, a really distressing piece of news. And let's just get into it. So what happened? Let's go back to the crux of the matter as things stand in this latest round of escalations. There was a terrorist attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir last month. In this attack in the Basaran Valley, in the kind of like the resort area or the tourist area of Pahalgam, there was a terrorist attack where masked gunmen opened fire on a huge group of tourists, and they killed like 26 Indians and one Nepali tourist. And when one of the women victims, who was crying over the body of her husband, a gunman approached her, and she's like begging him, just kill me. And the gunman is like, go back home to Modi. That is our Prime Minister Modi. Go back to Modi and tell him what happened. It is this terror attack last month was the worst terror attack on a civilian target within India since 2008. In 2008, in November, the world was witness to the horrific acts in Mumbai when again terrorists entered the city and they opened fire at the Taj Hotel and other locations around the city. And there was an absolute environment of mayhem and death and destruction, and it was something that utterly rocked the nation. I was in the US at the time for my college degree, and I came to hear about it on I believe it was Thanksgiving Day, and I was just like, I had no freaking idea what was going on. We as Indians, we're not strangers to cross-border tensions or even wars. I myself, I was 12 years old when Kargil happened in 1999, and I don't remember everything about that moment in time, but what I do remember is just this kind of like, there was a fear that you could feel in your community. The news was dire at the time. We had only just a few years ago, we had achieved nuclear status. We had access to nuclear missiles. Pakistan had access to nuclear missiles. And all of a sudden, we had incursions across the border in the northwestern parts of the country. And it wasn't just the terrorists that came into the country. It was also Pakistani army personnel, dressed in civilian clothes. They came in, they took over various high points in the mountains, and there was a big ground war that also involved a lot of artillery and everything. I remember you read the newspaper in the morning, you could feel the tension. You watched the news. My dad used to watch the news a lot. He's watching the news, and I'm just like, you don't quite have the frame of reference for any of this. You don't have the context for it. But you read, you watch, and some things just you just take it in by osmosis. And that is where again, that is where we are right now. We had this huge terror attack last month, and the government of India, Prime Minister Modi promised that we would retaliate. It is our right to retaliate when faced with such aggression, and it is our moral duty, it is a moral imperative to defend what is ours and to take justice, take vengeance for something like this, something so horrific, so barbaric. So what happened was, just a few days ago on Tuesday, we finally gave our reply to Pakistan. The Indian Armed Forces, especially the Army and the Indian Air Force, they conducted a series of strikes inside Pakistan targeting specific terror camps. Camps that were that were launch pads basically for terrorist actions across the border, and this was all confirmed by the research and agents of Indian intelligence, specifically the research and analysis wing and other agencies, military intelligence and Air Force intelligence and everybody. And at first, Pakistan was like, what the hell is going on, because these strikes, they happened overnight, in the dead of night, and they were targeted, they were very precise, and they took out a lot of locations, from where terrorists were hiding and they were conducting the business. You wake up in the morning and it's all over the news, and Pakistan is vowing retaliation and saying that we killed women and children, we killed innocents, which is like, again, they offered no proof for any of that. India has suffered enough in the last 78 years, and basically we are at the point where, yeah, you can have whatever evidence you want, we will provide it, but that is not our first priority anymore. We have tried to do that for so many years, and what has the world done? China has partnered with Pakistan. It has invested hundreds of billions of dollars into the country, propping up its infrastructure, propping up its military, and the US has done the same. Yeah, sure, the Pakistan is on some stupid list of terrorist nations. They have, it's a grey list or whatever, but everybody continues to do business with Pakistan, and there is no real pressure on the government, on the military, to change what is happening. So anyways, so Pakistan was retaliation. First they're like, oh, your operation, if you don't continue further, we will not retaliate. But then the lie is put to that when they begin shelling across the border, and they are claiming that in the strikes last night, we downed 5 of your Rafale jets, and so on and so forth, and we killed this Air Force pilot, we killed that, we destroyed this and destroyed that, India is lying and whatever, nothing happened. Well, pick your narrative. Did India do something, or did India not do something? First of all, we never claimed that that we sent fighters across the border to conduct strikes. Everything happened from our side of the border, within our limits, and we targeted terrorist camps. You yourself have a huge problem with terrorists on your own soil. You've been struggling against that yourself for the last 15-20 years. But you don't care because, some people die, so what? That is what you believe. And now, after that whole thing, it's been like 4 days, 5 days of constant fights, exchanging artillery fire, drone attacks and everything. But it was a little bit on the down low. It was more like, it was more going like, tit for tat, we have to make some symbolic gesture of retaliation and so forth, between the two countries. We did not instigate anything. We just kept, defending our borders, defending our people, defending our institutions, defending our infrastructure. But Pakistan feels it necessary to, target civilian areas, like yesterday and very early this morning, especially when, they sent missiles into Jammu, which is one of our northernmost cities, very important city in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They tried to attack our Air Force air bases and so many more locations, and they even dropped bombs in the middle of a market in J&K, especially the Rajouri district near Srinagar, I believe, or near Jammu itself. And that was the point where I was like, okay, I really want to get this video out. But I was struggling to explain what is going on. I've tried to have a conversation with my daughter, who is now a little over 7 years old, this week, informing her about the mock drills that were going to happen and the blackouts that were going to happen, and trying to explain to her, what is going on, what happened in Pahalgam, what happened on Tuesday with Operation Sindoor, and everything, especially today. I've had to have a conversation with her twice today. First, to explain what is going on again, and then second, when the ceasefire was announced. There was a ceasefire announced around 3:30 p.m. Indian local time. That is roughly like 6.5 hours ago. The ceasefire was announced. The Pakistani Director General Military Operations called his counterpart within India. There was some telephonic conversations that happened between the two governments and the militaries, and before they could announce anything, Donald Trump went on Truth Social to announce, I've carried on this negotiation all through the night, and we have come to a resolution, and there is a ceasefire. First of all, big FU to Donald Trump, big FU to Marco Rubio. They are spineless cowards. They are worse than the Pakistani government and the Pakistani military leaders. First, they wash their hands off, and they're like, this conflict doesn't involve us. We're not going to step into it. Fine, don't. We don't need you to do anything here. Really. Our military, we have the technological superiority, we have the numerological superiority, we have the infrastructure superiority, we have everything. India is going to defend no matter what, and we will only take harsher steps when there is an absolute need. We don't need any country to come in and interfere. But, whatever. They are still trying to de-escalate in some way, I suppose. But the news about the ceasefire came out over the following hours. It spread everywhere. It took a while for the Indian government to confirm things, which, it is a little bit silly. But what can you do when, Donald Trump, in his madness and his dementia, he just blasts something on social media, and he's like, he doesn't care, but whatever. So that was like the second point, right? I'm like, okay, so there's a ceasefire. I can finally relax. There's been this ongoing weight on my mind for the last few days. I'm in Delhi, so we are not too seriously impacted by the tensions at that point in time. But should things escalate with modern technology and everything, Delhi itself, the city itself, New Delhi, we could be in trouble. So that was just something, I was, okay, fine. Now I can relax. Just this morning, actually, I sent an email to my kid's school, to the principal, requesting him to announce the summer holidays early. And I was like, the tensions are ramping up and we don't know what's going to happen. It's better if, students, the parents, and the school staff, no one has to deal with the stress of another week, just wondering all the time in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? Are we going to have a missile dropped on us or whatever? Everybody needs that peace of mind right now. But, I was like, okay, fine. I sent this email off, and then, in the evening, everything I was like, oh, good. It's like, email wasted, but, whatever. Good, we did that. But now, as of like half an hour ago, Pakistan has violated the ceasefire. They claimed earlier on in this week that we targeted their mosques, which was false. They claimed that they had destroyed our air bases in various cities along the border. That was false. They claimed that they had captured an Indian Air Force pilot. That was wrong. That was misinformation. And they said that they have captured hundreds of scraps from failed Indian drones. Again, all false. It's complete misinformation, it's across every branch of their government, every branch of their military, every branch of their state media, everything. I have no idea what Pakistan is thinking. They do not have any kind of superiority in anything, whether that's economic, that's infrastructure, that's their military, that's their government, that's their logistics. In any kind of way that you measure these things, they are completely outmatched. But the Pakistani military chief has lost his mind. The Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, he has lost his mind. All the people around them, they have lost their minds. And this is just, this is what we would call an absolute clusterfuck. You go on any news channel right now, you type in ceasefire violated, and whether it's YouTube or it's on Google, you'll see all the links to any kind of live coverage or ongoing coverage where they're not showing anything live because of security concerns with blackouts along the border cities or anything like that. And it is just that, there's a way to explain things, right? But what do you do when you're being confronted with madmen who have lost their minds and who just cannot think rationally at all? We are two nuclear countries. India has always defended itself. When Prime Minister Modi in his first term, when he not conducted himself, but when he officiated over the planning for the Uri surgical strikes, when there was an attack in 2016 against the Indian Army on our own army bases, with terrorists infiltrating the bases and massacring sleeping soldiers. When we had a retaliatory strike for that attack, we went inside Pakistan and we conducted our own surgical strikes against the terrorists responsible for this, which was absolutely not different in any way to what the US did when they took out Osama bin Laden a few years earlier during Obama's term in the US. And he was living right next to one of the premier military academies, by the way. And Pakistan claims that it is not a haven of terrorism, that it doesn't encourage or give any kind of material support to terrorists. Which, by the way, one of their senior ministers, one of the senior government representatives, admitted on national television of just this week that they had a past policy. There is no evidence that the policies have changed, by the way. Pakistan still continues to fund, mobilize, and support all kinds of terrorist activities that are responsible for massive loss of life, not only within its own borders, but also in Afghanistan and in India, especially Jammu and Kashmir. And this is, the wildest kind of circumstances. We have continued to defend and defend and defend all through this week. We have responded in kind when we have been challenged, and we will continue to do so. Our military, it stands strong. The armed forces, their morale is high, and we have the whole nation united to combat this whole scenario that is going on. Some of the bravest people in India are right now, they are sitting in bunkers and military installations all across Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan, even Gujarat, and other neighboring states. They are ready to respond to any kind of threat. This morning and in this evening, our foreign minister, Mr. Misri, he conducted a press briefing alongside Wing Commander Vyomika Singh of the Indian Air Force and Colonel Sara Qureshi of the Indian Army, and they laid bare all the lies that Pakistan has been trying to sell to the world for the last week. And indeed, for so many days beyond that even. They have exposed all the lies about their victory against us, which is absolutely zero. They have laid bare to all the lies that the Pakistanis have been telling about losses within their country, which have been massive. And this is really a time when the Chinese and Pakistani apparatus for misinformation and propaganda is working overtime, seriously overtime. But it doesn't matter. People who are sane, they recognize what is going on and they're ready to combat all of this misinformation. They're ready to combat anything that happens across the borders. So this is what the situation is right now. India has friends not within the US. India has friends not within China. India has friends not within the UK or the EU or really anywhere else in the world. Much as it pains me to admit, because I'm a fierce opponent of these two countries because of their actions over the last 20-30 years and more, beyond that, especially in the last 3 years, 4 years. India's only real friends are Russia and Israel. Russia, because it has provided us with some of the technology that we're using right now against Pakistan in defending our sovereignty. And the same goes for Israel. These two countries have shared technological secrets with us, and even when we've been faced with a lot of aggression from other countries, specifically the absolute two-faced behavior from the US and other Western nations, these two countries have stood strong with us. We have had a long history of support between the three of us, and or at least as relates to us, Russia to us and Israel to us, and even us to them. But India, in the end, India is only going to be able to depend on itself, and we are ready for that. But just to inform the people out there, you who is watching this video right now, you're probably somewhere in the US, in Canada, or in the European Union, maybe in Africa, somewhere else in Asia, maybe China, Japan, whatever, I don't know who all are watching right now this video. Look past all the lies that are being told and look at the real facts. All right. One of the reasons the ceasefire happened today was because the US threatened to pull the IMF funding from Pakistan that was worth $1 billion. That is why there was sudden capitulation from Pakistan today. But I don't know what the hell is going on right now with the violation of the ceasefire. It is absolutely nonsense what is going on. And for sure, I'm saying yet again, the Pakistanis have lost their minds. Everything that is wrong can be laid at the feet of their politicians, their military personnel, and their intelligence services. The terrorists are just a tool to cause mayhem and destruction within India, and we are not going to tolerate that. The Pakistani people themselves, I urge you to recognize the lies of your government. Go to your military bases in Lahore, in Sialkot, and Sargodha, and all those places. Just see for yourself what has really happened. Don't trust the social media. The propaganda you'll see on social media is not worth it, wasting your time on. Look at things yourself. Watch the news, not the social media propaganda. Watch the actual news, and you'll learn what is going on right now. How you're being duped. There are issues in both countries that need to be solved, and we don't need a war between us to sweep those issues away so that they linger on for another 10, 15 years, 20 years, and everybody suffers because of that. And just I want to say in the end that no matter what happens, I fully support the Indian Armed Forces in what is going on. And while I'm just sitting comfortably in my home with electricity, with cold water, with warm food and everything, I still support every single soldier who is standing up to defend the country right now, no matter where you are or what your situation is, because it is the least I can do to profess my support. And should there be some way in which I could contribute further, I am fully willing to do that. But I just want to say that, at the very least, I fully support the armed forces. I fully support the government and what is going on. And, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.